Welcome into You Bet Tonight, presented by BetMGM. The Denver Nuggets are hosting the Sacramento Kings in that building tonight. Nuggets have lost their last two contests, but the Kings are in the same position. Welcome inside Ball Arena. I am Rachel Richlinski alongside Nate Lundy. And Nate, we have a beautiful backdrop tonight.
We do, although I do miss the Mighty Mites from playing hockey last night. Carrie Ann and I had some fun with them. By the way, I did attempt to find out if there were any player props, anything on the youngsters. And I was glared at by a few parents, and rightfully so. We will not be gambling on the young kids, but I do miss them tonight. But we do have a great game tonight. It's an opportunity for the Nuggets to get back on track, as you just said, and they could be able to play off of what I'm hoping is going to be a great home crowd tonight as well, because they do need it. They need an opportunity to get a win at home.
They need the win, and like I mentioned, those two losses, the Kings also coming in with two losses. So hoping for a win in this building tonight with the Nuggets. We'll have more on that later in the show. But now it is time to get to tonight's headline bet, brought to you by BetMGM, and we are starting in the National Hockey League with the Capitals at the Blues. Take it away,
Yeah,
Nate.
we do. We've got just a couple of games in the NHL tonight, and this one, depending upon if you're watching us as we kick things off here tonight or you're watching one of the re-airs leading up to Nuggets courtside, keep an eye on this one in terms of the live betting that's available to you at BetMGM. But as we start things off with the Blues hosting the Caps, part of the storyline to this one as we get to the pick is, in fact, who's not going to be playing. And it's some big names. No Nicholas Backstrom, no TJ Oshie for Washington, but also no Vladimir Tarasenko for St. Louis. And I think that is actually a bigger loss. I think Washington can make up for some of the players that they're missing. St. Louis, lots of folks that are dealing with injury and health and safety protocols. And so because of that, going to go with the Washington Capitals on the money line here tonight. Washington 4-1, by the way, the last 5 times that they have played in Seattle. And like I said, just what we're dealing with a lot of the players in and out. Lots of question marks for both rosters, but I just feel like the Caps are in a little bit better position to recover from having some of those missing pieces.
Exactly, and I hate this time whenever we have to keep talking about all these COVID injuries and guys getting added to the list and it affecting their game, because this game would be one that people have circled on the calendar to watch. Two teams with very similar records this season. You mentioned it with Vladimir Tarasenko. St. Louis's being without their top scorer, top point producer, so I'd still pick Washington in this one.
Yeah, I think you just kind of have to. Unfortunately, that's the position we're in, and again, that's why we pay attention to these. That's why sometimes if you want to wait till later in the day to decide where you want to do your bets, I don't blame you, because we do have a lot of moving parts, and it's changing the lines on us frequently.
Yeah, makes a big difference. Now from the National Hockey League to the NCAA, let's talk some college hoops.
I like this game tonight. I'm excited about this one. Xavier and Butler will be battling. Butler hosting this one. Xavier has not played in a while, and I'll tell you what, I think they've got some motivation. They are still ranked in the top 25, although they've slipped down. They now find themselves at number 23, but they're coming off of a loss to Villanova, only their second loss on the season, and I think it's one that, even though they lost by double digits, I think it's one that Xavier feels got away from them, and a game that should have at least been closer to that, if not an opportunity for them to win. So I think they've had this time off. Obviously, they've had 2 games postponed in here, but now they're back in action. They are on the road, but I'm going to take them. I'm going to lay the 6.5 points in this one. Again, I feel like this is a team that is motivated. Butler is only 8-5 on the season, whereas you look on the other side and you're looking at an Xavier team that's 11-2. They're only 2 losses. The Villanova one that I just mentioned that happened to them before they had a couple of their games postponed, and then they've also lost to Iowa State. So I would call those quality losses, even though they're by double digits. I think this is an Xavier team that can get back at it, knowing that they've got some motivation coming off of that loss that they've got, just 1-1 in conference play.
And moving along from college hoops to the NBA, Wizards at Bulls tonight.
Let's do it. Chicago hosting the Washington Wizards, another game that I really like, but we're going to look at the total this time. This one, I grabbed it earlier this morning at the over that you see on the screen at 222. I can tell you as the live line continues to move, it's jumped up. I've seen 223. I've seen 224. I think you can play this to 224.5, maybe 225 if you're feeling just a little bit bold. But I think 224.5 is probably where I draw the line. But I do expect some scoring in this one. These are teams that have averaged 235.5 in terms of their overall total the last 6 times that they have played. And Washington has been over in 5 out of the last 6 games as a road underdog. So combining all those things together, I think the trend points to a lot of points tonight at the United Center.
Yeah, and I like this game primarily because Chicago has won 8 straight, and of those 8, the last 2 have been buzzer beaters. So Chicago's on a roll. They're going to put up the points. Even if the Wizards don't make it happen, don't worry. The Bulls will take care of it. Now,
DeMar DeRozan, as you just said, keeps hitting these game winners. So they've definitely they're riding a high right now.
Exactly. Now, we've been talking about it all week long. It's almost over. The Broncos season's almost over. We're one day closer, Nate. Just hang in there. So let's talk a little bit more about those bets for Kansas City at Denver this Saturday.
I'm excited because we actually have a show tomorrow afternoon, which means I may not have to be tortured entirely by watching this game. But I've got a couple of bets that we've actually talked about earlier in the week, and I want to share them with you again here in case you missed it. Sort of a mini version of ICYMI if you want to. So obviously Kansas City coming to Mile High to take on the Broncos. Final regular season game for both teams and final game of the year for the Broncos now that we know that they have been completely eliminated from the playoffs. Kansas City has something to play for, as you well know. It's part of the reason why the NFL scheduled this the way that they did. They wanted Kansas City to have to play their starters to be able to garner those television ratings, and so they made it the early game on Saturday because Kansas City doesn't have the opportunity to wait to see what happens with the rest of the AFC playoff picture. So with that in mind, two picks for you. First of all, I'm going to take the over. Earlier in the week, it was at 44.5. Now it's at 45. I'm still going to take the over, and I know that's bucking the trend a little bit. It's slightly a TYG special from me at Trust Your Gut. I just feel like Kansas City is going to come out and score, especially in the first half. I think they're going to try to establish some dominance, knowing that they're trying to secure that spot. Remember, they still have a slim chance at having the number one overall position in the AFC playoffs. More than likely, they won't get it. It's only about a 17% chance, but it is still there for them, so they're motivated and have something to play for. I think Kansas City alone is going to wind up scoring 30+, and in fact, if you look at it, they've scored 31 or more in 4 straight games. I think they're going to easily do that against the Broncos, so take the over on the 45 in the total. And then let's talk about the under, and that's over on the Denver side of things. This is a team total, folks. Over under 16.5 points for the Broncos to score over the course of the entire game. You have to go back to October of 2018 to find a game that the Broncos have scored more than 16 points against the Kansas City Chiefs. They have been losing and losing spectacularly, frankly, to the Chiefs. And so because of that, I don't think you can expect that much. And that's why I correlate these two things together, Rachel. So we were just talking about the over total in the game at 45. I talk about the Broncos being under on the 16.5. It's because I fully expect Kansas City to put 33 to 38 points on the scoreboard. And so the 45 to me comes into play because I don't think they'll shut out the Broncos, but I think they can keep the Broncos point total subdued, looking at that 13-14 type of mark. And if that happens, you're going to stay over that 45, but under the 16.5 in the Broncos. So we're putting these two props together across the game. Kind of an interesting way to look at the total. Part of that is because some of the player props have not been posted. We do have a couple in the next segment, but we got to be a little bit careful with those player props, as we were just talking about with the hockey teams.
And, I've said it already. I said it, I believe, 2 days ago, that I want to believe that the NFL team that plays in the city that I live in can put up the 17 points, but I just don't. So I have to agree with Nate on that one. I think it's a smart move as far as bets are concerned.
There was more scoring with the Mighty Mites last night than there will be by the Broncos, trust me.
Mini Mites are great. And when we return, Nate said it, but we're going to talk some NFL player props. Stay tuned. You are watching You Bet Tonight. You Bet Tonight is brought to you by BetMGM Sports. Place your parlays, props, and futures bets at the king of sportsbooks. Get the app today. Like all Coloradans, Kroenke Sports and Entertainment is saddened by the wildfires that have impacted the Boulder County communities. The Red Cross and Salvation Army are offering assistance to anyone in the affected areas. Visit redcross.org, call 1-800-RED-CROSS for shelter locations, or text Red Cross to 90999 to give $10 to the American Red Cross Disaster Relief Fund to provide shelter, meals, and medical care. You can also text Fire Relief to 51555 to donate to the Salvation Army to supply meals and shelter, or visit their website at salarmy.us/Fire Relief 2022 for more information. For a list of other disaster relief agencies, please scan the QR code on your screen. And Nate, we mentioned it earlier in the week. This show is all about betting, and if you find it in your heart, viewers, please take some of those winnings and put it to the people who could really use it right now.
We'll direct you for the winnings, hopefully, and then obviously a great opportunity for you to help out our neighbors that need it in Boulder County and throughout those communities, because definitely, I know that's what Colorado does. We come to everybody's aid. We're here for our neighbors, so we hope that you'll help out any way you can, whether that's financially or with your time.
Exactly, and one way you can win money is with some player props. So we were just talking about the Broncos hosting the Chiefs this Saturday. So let's get into those player props for that game, starting with Drew Lock.
Let's talk about Drew Lock. Over-under in passing yards for him here in this particular game is going to be 206.5. That's the line that BetMGM has set, and I just think at this point it's too low of a number. A couple of reasons why. First of all, is this the last audition for Drew Lock? We don't know. We don't know if this is going to be the last opportunity he has to prove to this team that he can be their starting quarterback going forward, and in particular in 2022, if he's going to have that opportunity. So this will be a bit of an audition for him. He's at home home. You've got the opportunity to have what will be there in a crowd. I'm very curious to see what the crowd looks like in this contest on Saturday in terms of folks that do or don't decide to show up, how many Kansas City fans. But this is an opportunity for Drew Lock. If you go back to last week, his stat line, 18 of 25 for 245 yards. But if you backtrack to the first game against Kansas City at Arrowhead, Teddy Bridgewater went for 22 of 40 for 257. So combining those together, knowing that I think the Broncos are going to be scoreboard chasing and that Drew Lock has something that he wants to try to prove, I just think this number is too low for him. 206.5. I think he can get up over this. It may not be by much, but I just feel like this number is set too low for a guy that probably is feeling a little bit of pressure of having to prove himself.
Yeah, I agree. And I think this is probably my favorite bet that we'll talk about all night. You mentioned it a bit that Drew has a lot to play for. I think he's going to want to play his entire heart out in this game. And hey, the Chiefs defense really isn't that impressive. I mean, if you look at their last
game,
been
a little up and down.
Gave up 34 points in the loss to the Bengals on Sunday. I don't know. I think Drew Lock can make it happen.
A little different with Joe Burrow, but yeah, you're right. This defense has been a little bit questionable back and forth over the course of the season. We mentioned Drew Lock. Now let me go to the other sideline. Let's talk about the Kansas City Chiefs and Darrell Williams. So Clyde Edwards-Helaire will be out for this game for the Chiefs, and that makes a difference for me in this particular prop bet when we talk about Darrell Williams and his rushing yards total at 58.5. Without having to look over his shoulder or expecting the platoon type of situation back and forth with CEH, Darrell Williams should be able to get the ball to the belly enough, especially if it is a positive game script for the Chiefs that we were just talking about. I think Williams is going to continue to run it. 58.5 does not seem high enough for me. Denver, after starting off the year holding teams down, I think they held the Jets to 43 yards rushing back in week 3. Over the course of the last 4 games, Denver's giving up over 110 yards per game on the ground. So if you look at the overall season total, you might think, okay, it's going to be a little bit of a challenge for Darrell Williams to get to this number, but Denver has not had the same rushing defense over the course of the last 4 games that they had at the beginning of the season. So you can't look at just the overall season total right now. You got to look at the recent trend.
Yeah, exactly. And from running back to tight end, same game, Travis Kelce.
Travis Kelce, this one is, I'll be honest with you, I like this pick. I don't necessarily love this pick. So I'm going to throw it out there for you just in case you're looking for something to have some fun with tomorrow afternoon's game, or maybe you're looking for a same game parlay on the NFL side of things. 63.5 receiving yards for Travis Kelce. Now, the reason I'm a little bit nervous about this one is because of what he's done over the last 4 games. He's only gone over this total once if you look at the last 4 games. However, if you look at the opposite trend in terms of what he does consistently in his career against the Denver Broncos, we're talking about an average of 81.6 yards per game receiving. So even though his recent trend doesn't point to him going over, I just think in general, the division rivalry, the AFC West matchup, final regular season game of the year, again, Kansas City has something to play for. But I'll tell you what, we're going to feel really good about this bet if Kelce is already at about 40 to 45 by halftime, because if it is that positive game script we talked about, his usage is going to come down. There's no reason for Andy Reid to have his stars out there on the field once the game is in control.
Yeah, looking forward to it. And again, we're just one day closer, Nate. You just got to hang in
one
there.
Day.
All right, enough about that Broncos game on Saturday. Let's look ahead to Sunday.
Oh, good. Yes. Let's do it.
The Colts at Jacksonville.
Yeah, the Colts at Jacksonville, the spot that the Colts have actually not won in Jacksonville since 2014.
Ooh.
So it's why I said the Chiefs have a reason to play hard against the Broncos. For whatever reason, the Colts cannot manage to win in Jacksonville, no matter how bad they have been. Yes, 2014 was the last time Indianapolis went into Jacksonville and won. So let's talk about Carson Wentz's passing yards. I'm going to go under here on 213.5. Main reason why, hand the ball to Jonathan Taylor and get out of the way. That's basically how you need to run this offense for the Colts. I do think they'll get a positive script. I do think they will finally win in Jacksonville. But for Carson Wentz, he's been under in 5 out of his last 7. And in fact, in the first game against Jacksonville this season, he only passed for 180 yards. So he's going to be underneath this number. I feel confident in that one. But yeah, things could get a little dicey between the Colts and the Jags. It's pretty wild the way the Jacksonville Jaguars have had the Colts number at home.
That's fascinating. 2014, but look, the Jags are just not that good.
No.
They're just not that good.
And they still managed to beat the Colts.
And I don't know. I still kind of think Carson Wentz might be capable of throwing more than 214 yards. I mean, he had 225 in week 16.
Give the ball to Taylor.
I don't know, though. Once you said that about 2014, I'm like, all right, maybe I'm going to just step back here. He might be right on this one. Just run it. Please, please, please. All right, guys, stay with us because whenever we return, we are talking everything Nuggets. They're in this building tonight hosting the Kings. You Bet Tonight is brought to you by BetMGM Sports. Place your parlays, props, and futures bets at the king of sportsbooks. Get the app today. Well, welcome back to You Bet Tonight. We are inside Ball Arena where the Denver Nuggets will be hosting the Kings tonight. Nuggets coming off 2 losses, but the Kings are in the same boat as them.
Let's see if we can get back on track with the Nuggets. I'll tell you this, though, as we get ready to do our Nuggets picks here, the spread of this game has me a little bit scared, and part of the reason for that is because the Nuggets have been struggling against the spread, only 1-6 against the spread over the course of the last home game. So let's talk about the total instead. Let's go under on the 226.5. I was surprised to see a number this high. Both of these teams are capable of increasing the pace and making their way up and down the court relatively quickly, but I did not expect a number to be at 226. Really expected this to be closer to 222, maybe 223. So the fact that we're getting a 3 to 4 point buffer here makes me want to take the under. Denver's also been under in 6 out of their last 7. So again, against the spread has been a challenge, but from a total standpoint, they've been consistent. Let's look for them to do that again tonight against the Kings here at home and hopefully breaking that losing streak. Now for a player prop for tonight. Yes, we've been doing a lot with the Joker lately. I know, and Jokic has been cashing tickets for us, but let's mix it up a bit. Let's talk about Aaron Gordon with his rebounding prop over at 5.5. Sacramento allows the 7th most rebounds to their opponents in the NBA, so not cleaning the glass strong, allowing teams to come in and, Sacramento not getting a lot of second chances and at the same time not being able to keep teams off of the offensive board. So I think Gordon can allow that, or can hit this number at 5.5. I expect him to finish with 6 or 7, and in fact, he's been over in 2 out of his last 3 games, so we're trending in the right direction.
Trending in the right direction, and you said it, but just to reiterate, I'm staying away from the spread tonight because both teams so far this season have been horrible against the spread, so we're just not even going to touch that with a 10-foot pole. I like the under in this game, and I'd take Gordon as well.
Well, and you're looking for those trends. That's what you're doing. So when you haven't seen either of these teams doing well against the spread, then stay away from it, folks. Find the player prop you like or find the total. That's where you want to be.
And we have more to get to, right? That's not the only NBA game tonight.
Good NBA games on the schedule tonight. Let's keep rolling as we've got the Cavs traveling to Portland to take on the Trailblazers. And the Trailblazers, of course, continue to be without Dame Lillard as he deals with the abdominal injury, and that's going to keep him out for a while, which means the same way that we have found some different teams across the NBA and in the NHL that we have wanted to fade consistently, Portland may turn into that team, and that's what we're going to do tonight with Cleveland favored by 6.5, and I'm going to lay the 6.5 points with this one. I think the Cavs should have little trouble taking care of Portland. Again, this is not the same team without Dame Lillard. It just isn't, and I think that because of that, you can start to focus in on some of these teams that are going to be facing off with Portland, particularly when Portland gets back on the road. I know obviously they're at home in the Rose City tonight, but I think Cleveland should be able to take care of business. Portland 1-5 against the spread in their last 6 games, so similar situation to what we're talking about with the Kings and the Nuggets later tonight here at Ball Arena. Then we move on with the Lakers and the Atlanta Hawks, and the Lakers at home at Crypto.com Arena. I need to remember what to call it that. It's still going to be Staples Center for me for a while. But the Lakers are at home. They're favored by 2.5 in this one, and we are going to lay the points with the Lakers. The Lakers offense has been heating up as of late, folks. You look at their last 3 games, they've scored 139, 108, and 122. So when we look at the total, the over-under at 228, I'd be tempted to take the over in this one as well. But at the very least, I think the way this offense has been going, they are going to be able to keep up with what Trae Young likes to do. Looking forward to Trae Young and Russell Westbrook battling it. But the over-under line movement has been moving around a little bit, which is why I'm staying away from that one. But I will take the Lakers minus 2.5.
I'd keep an eye on that over-under line as well as we get closer to the game, because the Lakers looking to string together 4 consecutive wins for the first time this season, and both of these teams have been exploding offensively. So definitely keep an eye on it. But you're right, if you want to stay safe in this zone right now.
Stay a little bit safe.
Take the Lakers at 2.5.
And then one more thing for you here before we wrap up our NBA segment. Let's talk about a player prop here with Malik Monk. Over under on 16.5 points. The thing that I want to look at here, this is again following the trends. He has seen increased minutes consistently over the last 6 games. He's getting up to the point where he's averaging in that low 30 range in terms of minutes on the court. Trying to get some points, got to be on the court to be able to do it, obviously, and Monk is getting that opportunity right now. He's been over this total in 5 out of those 6 games that I just talked about where his minutes have gone up. So because of that, again, this is a kind of, we're not talking about a player prop on on LeBron or on Russell Westbrook. We're talking about a different role type player in this game. But when you've got an opportunity, you see a player prop like that, it doesn't have to be one of the flashy stars for you to be able to cash a ticket.
I like that you mentioned that it doesn't have to be such a flashy star.
Right.
Everyone wants to jump at the Joker bets and everything else, but it's so fun whenever you can find one that's a little under the radar, put your money on it and hit big.
And
oh, man.
The other thing I'll say is, because Rachel, you referenced it earlier on in the show, we've talked about it a number of times over the last few weeks. As we deal with the health and safety protocols, as we deal with injuries, as we talk about the players that are on and off the COVID list, yes, that affects sometimes what you can do with the games, but it also gives you an opportunity like what we just talked about with Malik Monk, because his minutes are increasing because of the problems that they've had with their rotations. So you can go find these player props. So yes, you may miss out on your stars, or you may not like the spread or the total because of the fact that you're stacked up against a difficult rotation, but that could open up an opportunity for somebody like Monk, who's now been over this total in 5 out of 6 games. So you want to cash the ticket, you want to make those bets while you can, and then as the team starts to get back to normal rotations, then back away from it.
And that's why we're seeing it across so many different sports. You see it in the NHL a lot right now. I mean, when guys go on the COVID protocol list, it's just the next opportunity, next man up mentality, right?
And you got to find that next man up mentality and bet on it. That's what you got to do.
Exactly. Well, stay with us. You Bet Tonight. We'll be right back with some same game parlay bets. That plus a little ICYMI when we return. You Bet Tonight is brought to you by BetMGM Sports. Place your parlays, props, and futures bets at the king of sportsbooks. Get the app today. So the Denver Nuggets are looking to bounce back at home tonight against the Kings, hosting them in just a couple hours. How about a same-game parlay bet for tonight's game?
We hit one on Wednesday. Let's see if we can do it on Friday as well. 3 pieces to this same-game parlay. And once again, as we talked about earlier this week, it's not about trying to knock it out of the park. It's about trying to find the positive odds and then cashing a ticket. So in this one, we just need Nikola Jokic to have 20 or more points. We need Aaron Gordon to have 4 or more rebounds. And then Monte, I need a steal, my man. I need just one steal, which he had in the game against Utah on Wednesday night. So if he can get another takeaway with a turnover out of the Kings, we put all those together, it's got a plus 145 payday. So nice and simple. Let's see if we can go 2 for 2. We hit Wednesday. Let's see if we can do it tonight.
Let's do it. Make it perfect.
I like it.
I like it. I like the thought of it. I like it. And
we can do it.
You know what else I like?
Yes.
ICYMI.
Let's do it. 5 favorite bets from tonight's show. Let's do it. Xavier, remember, coming back after a couple of games being postponed. They are on the road against Butler. We'll lay 6.5, and we will take the Musketeers, top 25 team there. Wizards and Bulls will go over the 222.5. Lakers minus 2.5 at home against Atlanta. Malik Monk, the player prop that I like, over 16.5 points. And Carson Wentz, as we look ahead to Sunday, under on that 213.5 passing yards. I'm expecting this to be another heavy Jonathan Taylor rushing game.
Love it. Great work, Nate. I know you work hard.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Do I get to go shoot now?
Go. It's clear. Take it.
I got a great hook shot.
Go. All right, everyone. Good luck on your bets tonight. Good luck to the Nuggets. Thank you for watching You Bet Tonight, presented by Altitude.